Question Time isn't something I cover. It's not something I watch. I stopped watching it years ago because it was just so frustrating. I'm sure so many people watching feel the same. But I did see a couple of clips of Lisa Nandy and Grace Blakeley going at it. And what I'm going to do is react to those portions only when they interact with each other. What I have seen so far, again, it's only like 10, 20-second clips, was Lisa Nandy lying through her teeth. So we're going to break down the interactions between them, and I'm going to react for you right now.
OK, well, look, Grace, Ian's question is, will Natalie Elphicke be an asset to the Labour Party or a liability? And I wonder if you might address the woman's question there about definitely. Whoever gets in, will they be full of promises, which actually won't amount to,
Yeah, look, I think what's interesting about this is that anyone who's criticised Labour recently has been told, you're just trying to get the Tories in, and here's Keir Starmer literally getting the Tories into his own party. And this isn't just any Tory, as we've heard. She's, pretty right-wing. She's made some bad comments about Starmer. She's also made some pretty terrible comments about the victims of her ex-husband's sexual assault. And I mean, just imagine if you are a sexual assault survivor looking at this image of Elphicke sitting behind Keir Starmer, what are you going to think? Are you going to think, I'm able to trust this party?
I mean, I should point out, Grace, as you know, that she has now apologised.
She's apologised, yeah, which, again, an interesting...
That's all right, then. Oh, well, she has apologised. It's not good enough. I mean, what she did was try to influence the trial of her ex-husband by appealing to the judge, which is corrupt. And she gaslit victims of sexual assault. To say, well, she's sorry now, that's okay, it's very contradictory because there are so many Labour members and MPs. I mean, Diane Abbott, for example, has apologised for what they've done. And, Diane Abbott wrote a poorly worded letter, and she was trying to make a point about the hierarchy of racism. We don't need to go for it again. But she's apologised, and she has the whip still removed from her. But Natalie Elphicke, she defended her ex-husband, who is a sexual abuser, and apparently that's fine. I know that Fiona's trying to create context here. That context does not matter whatsoever.
Double standard there, right? She said something pretty terrible and she apologised, and Keir Starmer has welcomed her open arms into the Labour Party. Diane Abbott a while ago said something that she regretted that was wrong. She apologised, and she is still not inside the Labour Party. This is a woman who receives more abuse than any other MP, a woman who has been a long-serving Labour MP. And I just find that double standard really upsetting, actually. And I think it speaks to the point that the lady made about, can we really trust politicians? I think this actually sits at the core of our democracy right now. Trust in political parties is at all-time lows because people see politicians making promises and then going into Westminster and saying, oh, it's actually too difficult, there's no money left, we can't do any of the things that we promised you. And it's, I think, a really cynical move on the part of our politicians just to say, that we couldn't possibly fulfil these promises that we've been making to people. Even more cynical not to even make the promises in the first place, as I think Keir Starmer is failing to do, because you basically say either there's not enough money left to fix the NHS or I'm going to encounter too much opposition, I can't possibly do anything. We have gone through in this parliament, this has been the first parliament in modern history where living standards have fallen. And that comes on the back of the longest period of wage stagnation since the 1800s. People are desperate for change. And if politicians don't deliver that, I'm worried about the future for our democracy.
Long, certainly under Corbyn, were a Labour supporter. Will you be voting Labour at the next election?
I left the Labour Party over its stance on Gaza. It was after Keir Starmer's LBC interview where he said that he basically thought that Israel had the right to cut off water and electricity to Gaza, which I think now is very clear constitutes a war crime. But that is not the only reason I've got. I'm also really disappointed with the dropping of the £28 billion pledge to invest in decarbonisation. I'm disappointed in the fiscal rules and the fact that we're not considering raising any taxation on the wealthy, on big businesses. I'm disappointed in the watering down of the one last good thing that was there, which was the New Deal for workers. I'm just looking at Keir Starmer now, and even as someone who I'm not going to vote for him, but I'm like, what's left?
There's been some kind of investigation going on into comments that she made, which she has apologised for something like a year now.
Yep.
Now, how can that still be going on, and she's not admitted it back into the Labour Party, when Natalie Elphicke's admitted in and then she apologises?
Well, look,
it's a matter of 24 hours.
Yeah, I agree with what you said about Diane. She's someone who has been a good colleague to me. I like her. I admire the impact that she's made. Trailblazer is the word that's most often used to describe her. And
so does that not appear to be a double standard?
Well, look, but You've got to remember why we've got an independent disciplinary process. This is not the same as joining a party. This is about a disciplinary process. And the reason we've got an independent disciplinary process...
Well, maybe the disciplinary process isn't fit for purpose. I think that is just a way of wangling out of the obvious contradiction here. Well, Natalie has joined the party, so she's not under any investigation, so that's fine, whereas Diane Abbott is under investigation. The problem is, though, why has it taken a year for Diane Abbott? It hasn't taken a year for many other MPs, those who are more closely aligned with Keir Starmer, when they've done something bad and wrong. Some of them have been not even suspended in the first place, others have been suspended for a short period of time. So why has it taken a year for Diane Abbott? It has nothing to do with independent process. It's because either they don't really know what to do with her, or they're trying to wait for the election to happen first, and then maybe that means someone else is going to have to be a candidate because she's not officially under the Labour PLP. And then after the election, I might go, okay, well, Diane Abbott did nothing wrong, and let's readmit her back to the party. But it's like, well, it doesn't really matter now because she's not standing in the seat. So they're probably just waiting it out. That's essentially, it's a political reason. Once again, it's the right-wing faction using issues for political gain. That's what it is. And Lisa Nandy has not been truthful about this.
Process is because under our previous leader, he and his cheerleaders brought the Labour Party to its most shameful time in our history, where the Equality and Human Rights Commission opened an investigation into anti-Semitism in the Labour Party and found that we had...
This is shameful. This is absolutely disgusting, right? Jeremy Corbyn has not led the party for 5 years. We are talking about Keir Starmer's leadership. We are talking about a very right-wing Tory MP crossing the floor, and we're talking about Diane Abbott, the present. And once again, Lisa Nandy and many other people who have pretty much backed Keir Starmer, all they've done is attack the left, is to bring up the past. And no, of course, didn't sink the party to its most shameful period. It's bollocks. It was a brief period of time where the Labour Party didn't accept austerity, didn't accept migrant bashing, didn't accept right-wing economics. It stood for something, and it gave millions of people hope. That's why there were hundreds of thousands of people that joined the party, because people were excited about Labour. For the Labour hierarchy or the Labour bureaucracy, it was shameful for them because a huge mirror was placed in front of them and it made them look like fools. It was shameful for them. Of course, they hated it. But for ordinary people who wanted a huge transformation in the material conditions that they find themselves and that we find ourselves in, it was incredibly hopeful. Obviously, when it comes to anti-Semitism, more and more people are waking up to the sham that it was. It doesn't mean that anti-Semitism didn't exist in the party. I don't regard those who say it was all a smear in high regard, because racism and anti-Semitism exists everywhere, okay? But it was obviously dramatically overstated for political reasons, and we can see that majority of the smears came because Jeremy Corbyn was strong on Palestine. And now we're seeing, since October 7th, even like the mildest criticism of Israel, you got someone calling you an anti-Semite. So people are waking up to that. So no, there wasn't this period where Labour was just this massively racist party. And we know that the EHRC was political. It was a tool used by the Tories. The EHRC isn't fit for purpose. There's a reason why the EHRC hasn't investigated the Tory party in, one, anti-Semitism, because there's actually more anti-Semitism in the Tory party, and two, Islamophobia. And it's not because, Labour is the way the media narrative is, well, they're just especially bad. No, it's because it's a political weapon, and the Tories were never going to be investigated for it. That's why. But again, Lisa Nandy is bringing up the past. She has nothing to say about, she has no argument about the present. So, it's just bring up Jeremy Corbyn again, if in doubt. It's pathetic stuff. And she's obviously lying.
Semitic party, and the central recommendation of that report, which Keir Starmer took seriously, I take seriously, and the whole of the front bench takes seriously.
No, he doesn't. No, you don't. And the Labour Party doesn't take anti-Semitism seriously. More Jewish people have been suspended or expelled under Keir Starmer than any other leader. Left-wing Jewish councillors kicked out of the party because they supported a ceasefire. Labour, categorically, is far more anti-Semitic now than it ever was under Jeremy Corbyn. But obviously the media doesn't like to pick up on that very truthful fact. And again, politicians are trying to engage in falsities. Labour, right now, is probably institutionally anti-Semitic because it quite literally targets left-wing Jews because they stand up for Palestinian people.
Is that never, ever again will friends or factions of the leadership interfere in disciplinary processes. That's why I have nothing to do with the...
That's a lie. Wow. So she's saying never again should the leadership interfere in disciplinary matters. I agree with that, by the way. That's a good thing. We should have an independent process for each person. The problem was, if any of you have read the EHRC report and the Ford report, which I've read both of them in full, there were instances where Jeremy Corbyn didn't want to intervene, but there were people coming to him. He was pressured to intervene. The narrative that Nandy is spinning, and the narrative that media spins, is that Jeremy Corbyn intervened to help out his mates to not face disciplinary charges for anti-Semitism. That's the narrative that's been spun. No, the only instances when Jeremy Corbyn intervened was to get rid of them quicker. So, Ken Livingstone, for an example. Ken Livingstone is a high-profile person, so it is, I guess, reasonable to expect the leadership to either comment or intervene. He intervened to get rid of Ken Livingstone quicker. Any other time, he tried to resist interfering with the process, but he was pressured. He was consistently bombarded with messages and saying, are you going to do something about this person and that person? It was a structural issue. But Lisa Nandy is trying to say, never again will the leader get involved. Keir Starmer is going to stand back and let the proper procedure proceed, which is a lie, because Keir Starmer has consistently intervened when it's benefited him and his faction. He's literally done that. He's openly said that. So Keir Starmer has done it more than Jeremy Corbyn did. And Jeremy Corbyn only intervened when he was pressured to do so. Keir Starmer's doing it willy-nilly. So again, Lisa Nandy is lying on national television.
Investigation into Diane,
I
but I very much hope it's resolved quickly.
I mean, a year.
Well, look,
it's not some complicated issue.
And I just wanted to address the lady's point about promises, because I think this is incredibly important. I think for all political parties, this is the biggest challenge at the next election. And I'm afraid I won't take any lectures from Grace, who was a champion for a manifesto that was fundamentally dishonest.
What was wrong with standing with the 2019 manifesto? You stood on that platform. You won your seats on that platform. So why are you having a go at Grace Blakeley, an economist, by the way, for supporting the manifesto? Many of us supported the manifesto, and it was a good manifesto. It was fully costed. It's far better than what shit Keir Starmer's going to come up with. Everything, the entire economic policies and economic narratives that have been spun by Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer has been economic incompetence. It has been bullshit. John McDonnell actually knows what he's talking about, or he's actually truthful about how the economy works. It was one of the best manifestos I had ever seen. Even the Financial Times, a Rupert Murdoch-backed paper, is usually, usually backs right-wing parties, had an article with an open letter from several economists saying that Labour deserve to form the next election. Economists backed the manifesto because it was sensible. Another lie from Lisa Nandy.
Saying we can do everything, we can spend all the money in the world, and we can deliver absolutely everything, knowing full well that they couldn't. And we had another political party...
Lisa?
Another lie. First of all, the manifesto wasn't saying we can do anything we want. There were many things that didn't make it in the manifesto. It also wasn't... The manifesto weren't written by so-called Corbynites. It was a collective effort. They had to get the PLP to sign off on it. So there were people who were not as left-wing as Jeremy Corbyn signed off on it. So it was a compromise. And no, there were certain fundamental economic policies in which were needed, which is an end to austerity and public ownership of services. But it wasn't promising everything and anything. And she's lying again because she's trying to say those that supported the manifesto knew it couldn't be delivered. No, the economists say it can be delivered. Those that wrote the manifesto believed that manifesto. But she's lying again saying, well, they knew it was rubbish, but they went with it anyway. Absolutely shameful from Lisa Nandy. Deplorable.
Sorry, Grace, you had a long say, and actually what that did to many working people across this country was rob them of any hope that things could possibly get better. Because
are you serious? Currently, Keir Starmer is supporting big business over workers. I mean, Grace Blakeley, are you going to address the point that Grace Blakeley made, which is that the New Deal for Workers, which was unveiled by Angela Rayner back in 2021, has now been severely watered down because businesses got involved and they didn't like it, right? I think workers will hate that. I think that is taking hope away from workers. Many people were so incredibly hopeful on those last two manifestos because it really sought to rebalance the economy in favour of ordinary people. It didn't want to tax working class people. It wanted to tax the top 95%. It wanted to increase corporation tax. It wanted to rebalance the economy and make things more fairer. And the idea that Jeremy Corbyn and that leadership robs the working class of hope in favour of Keir Starmer, who sacks people standing on picket lines. What a fucking disgrace.
Because against that, you had Boris Johnson and these big promises of levelling up that have come to absolutely nothing. So when we say we are going to implement the New Deal for working people,
you're not.
when we say we are going to get Britain building, you can absolutely rest assured that we mean it and that we're going to deliver it.
Before we get to Grace, I know I'm interjecting a lot because this is really pissing me off. I love how she tries to make a bit of a speech there. No one claps because I guess no one's falling for it. The idea that, oh, well, when we say we're going to do something, we mean it. Keir Starmer has been the biggest flip-flopper I think I've ever seen of any leader, including the Tories. I always said that Keir Starmer lies just as much as Boris Johnson. They haven't kept a consistent line. So the idea that people can look at Labour and say, well, when we say we're going to do this, we mean it. Jeremy Corbyn, when he ran for Labour leader in 2015, most of the platform he ran on made it into the manifesto. He talked about abolishing tuition fees. He talked about an end to austerity. He talked about the end to privatisation of our public services. He talked about higher taxes on the rich. He talked about a more ethical foreign policy. That was the core tenet of his leadership campaign, and he carried it his entire leadership. Keir Starmer, on the other hand, well, his 10 pledges didn't even make it 5 minutes. And not only did he renegade on every single pledge when he became leader, even pledges after he became leader have then been watered down, have then been scrapped. The man cannot keep the same policy on the same line for more than 10 minutes. I think Lisa Nandy is living in a completely different universe here. She's either deluded or she's lying. I mean, I think she's lying, but this is nonsense. But let's listen to what Grace has to say. There's finally some common sense.
And I think this is true of lots of people in the Labour leadership, means that you've looked at that manifesto, seen there was a lot in it, that is true, and just said anything that Corbynism has touched, we can't go near, which means that you have a manifesto that's basically empty.
It's just rubbish.
It's got effectively nothing in it.
I'll give you one example of that. Just last week, we announced that we're going to take our rail franchises back into national ownership as the contracts expire. We're not going to promise to buy them out because we don't think we should be using people's money to bail out shareholders. It's their money and they haven't got a lot of it. But what we are going to do is put our railways back in public hands for the public good. So I'm afraid that's just not true.
The thing is, if you care so much about rail nationalisation, then why didn't you back Jeremy Corbyn? Why did you undermine him? Because rail nationalisation was in that manifesto too. But guess what? No one believes you anymore. I don't think anyone believes that Labour are going to implement this policy. Anything that Keir Starmer, anything that the front bench has come up with has been ditched. So you've lost the trust of the people.
Because there is only one solution to this, and it's a safe and secure Israel alongside a just and dignified
but Lisa, we
Palestinian
are providing
state.
weapons to Hamas. America
But
is not providing weapons to Hamas.
You have just said, essentially, that Israel doesn't have the right to defend its civilians.
I have absolutely not
We've
said
got
that. I've
Hamas
said
firing
that
rockets into Israel.
with responsibility.
Oh my God. So another lie. So, I mean, Grace makes a good point. It's like, well, sure. I mean, you're saying these nice words about, well, a dead Israeli child and a dead Palestinian child. It's so bad. And, well, obviously, yes. But at the end of the day, the British state is arming Israel. It's sending arms to them. It's sending weapons to them. It's not doing that to Hamas. That's a really good point. And we shouldn't be selling arms anywhere because I'm against the global arms trade anyway. And I hate this argument when they say, well, we need to do an investigation in which particular arms are being used in the attack on Rafah and stuff like that. It's like, bollocks. Just stop the arms sales, all right? Even if it's only 1% of the arms sales goes to Israel, it is wrong. And Grace points out, well, obviously the British are backing Israel, structurally. You can say certain phrases and certain slogans that you care about the Palestinians, but your actions matter. And Lisa Nandy's response is, oh, you don't think Israel has a right to defend themselves? What a fucking ghoul she is.
Had 500 drone strikes from the Iranians in a matter of hours against Israeli civilians. I care about...
Yeah, and why did Iran attack them? Why did Iran drone Israel? Oh, that's because a couple of weeks before, Israel attacked an Iranian consulate in Syria. It was an act of aggression. It was an act of war. It was against international law. Oh, does Iran not have the right to defend themselves? Absolutely shameless. Fucking shameless.
I care about the children who've been killed in Palestine.
Bollocks.
And so we've got to take a serious approach to this. Stop selling weapons that are used against innocent civilians. Allow Israel to defend itself against hostile attack and bring the two sides together to achieve a long overdue and badly needed ceasefire.
You can't bring two sides together when one side, Israel, wants to commit a genocide of the Palestinians. That is what the Israeli state was built upon. It was built upon the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people, right? You can get rid of Netanyahu. You can bring in a less radical Israeli government, but they're going to still enact the very same policies. Maybe slower, maybe not quite as horrible, even though it's all pretty damn horrible. But the end goal for the state of Israel is to occupy the entire land and get rid of all Palestinians. That's terrorism. Are you suggesting that we negotiate with terrorists, Lisa Nandy? It's insane. You can't bring these two sides together.
Like in some points over the last 8-9 months this has been taking place, it feels almost like you're going mad because you hear politicians say over and over again, what's going on is unconscionable, it's all terrible, and we should do things in accordance with human rights, whilst allowing Israel to get away with just more and more and more every time. We're having this conversation now where these people have been pushed to the very, very end of where they could be pushed.
I don't know who you're arguing with.
Well,
because I've just told you.
You yourself said immediately. You
there must be accountability. We support the ICJ ruling.
You said
we support the ICC.
I think it was maybe a month or two.
You support the ICJ ruling. Well, the ICJ ruled that there could be a possible genocide happening. Not a single one of you have said there is a genocide happening here. You absolutely do not support the ICJ ruling.
After the October 7th
Hang on, don't both talk at the same time.
Sorry.
Make your point, then I'll let
you said not long after the October 7th event happens that you weren't sure the extent to which international law could be applied in this case.
No,
that I find shocking. That is what is reported.
Yeah, it was reported on Twitter, Grace, and it's not the real world.
I saw that reported in a number of news sources.
I'm sorry,
you didn't say that.
But this is, when I have been in the region 3 times in the last 6 months having difficult conversations, robust conversations with the Israeli government, with the Palestinian Authority, with all of the interlocutors.
I think that makes you more disgusting. That the fact that you've been to the region and you've seen what has happened up front, and you still won't take a hard line against Israel.
Who are trying to reach a negotiation to get the hostages out and get aid in and bring this war to a close.
Why did you not speak out against Keir Starmer saying...
Hang on.
When Keir Starmer said Israel has the right to cut off water and power, which is a war crime, why did you not speak out against that, Lisa?
Because he didn't, and you know that he did. And you're just doing this over and over again when he's clarified.
That is a lie. Keir Starmer literally said on LBC, when the question was put to him, does Israel have a right to cut off water and electricity? Keir Starmer says, I think Israel does have that right.
Exactly what he said and what he meant.
Okay. Hang on.
You've had a very long say about this, and you've said several things that are just completely untrue. And I tell you, the one thing...
Every single thing Grace said has been 100% true, and everything you have said has been a complete lie. Don't try and project here, because that's exactly what you're doing.
You are not doing is helping to bring this to a close. If I talked the way that you talked in such casual terms about the right
Lisa,
of Israelis
I'm
to
not
security,
talking in casual terms at all.
We would not get people into the room, and we would not protect those children in Gaza.
I'm just going to draw this to a close.
So obviously that wasn't the entire question time. I was only interested in the interactions between Lisa Nandy and Grace Blakeley, and what I saw on display was absolutely shocking. And look, Grace said absolutely nothing wrong. She was factually correct and she was morally right. And all Lisa Nandy did, because she knows her position is untenable, is to lie about Grace Blakeley and lie about her own positions and Labour's positions. And I think it's absolutely disgusting. I think Lisa Nandy is deplorable. Absolutely deplorable. And this is what they do. And when I say they, particularly the Labour right, is that they know that politics is horrific. When it comes to domestic policies, it's terrible. When it comes to foreign policy, it's terrible. They've done terrible things. They know that, and it's hard to sell that to the people. So what they do is attack. They attack, they attack, they attack. All way back in 2015 when Jeremy Corbyn just said I was going to stand, right? I wish there was a robust debate about politics and policies, but what do we get? We got attacks. We got Jeremy Corbyn is unelectable. We got Jeremy Corbyn is crazy. We got all these sorts of insults, and that has never stopped. And since then, the left has tried to talk about policies, tried to have a more moral foreign policy interjected into the Labour Party. And all the Labour right have done is lied and smeared. And they're absolutely disgusting. And it's all for us to see. But that is one of the most shocking displays I've seen of a politician. And Lisa Nandy should hang her head in shame because she is absolutely disgraceful.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and drop a comment. It's good for the algorithm and I'm interested in what you have to say. If you're not already subscribed, please do and hit the notification bell. You can also support this channel by becoming a member for 99p per month. And if you're feeling a little more generous, then you can support us on Patreon for £3 or £5 per month. This channel for a while has been uploading every single day, and it's quite a lot of work that is still voluntary and scheduled around my paid work. But I have so much ambition, expect in the future to see more variety in content, such as interviews and Vox Pops. But I want this to be a fully fledged media organisation where not only is this my full-time job, but to have multiple people working for Turn Left. I like to see a live show in the future, more content that delves into culture, history, and much more. But that can only be done if there's money. So please, if you can, support us in any way that's in your capacity. And thank you to existing members, subscribers, and patrons. See you next time.